What's up, guys? We basically had another episode of Bleach happen, and it's still phenomenal. But before we get started, just remember, next week's episode is going to be an hour-long special, 2 episodes in one, so then that way it wraps up this second cour of Bleach until the final cour, or the next one, comes out much later. Now, it gets first to the differences between the manga and the anime, which honestly, there was a lot this go around, but we'll try to get through them as quickly as possible. First off, this whole scene that was in the beginning of the episode was added in, which is actually animated really well. I guess the best way to explain this scene without giving things away is the fact that it's kind of like a backstory, if you will, to kind of establish history between Yhwach and Squad Zero Captain. With their established background here, you'll start to see a lot of hate and animosity between them. There is also something else that happened in this scene that basically does reveal something in the future, but I can't really expand upon that right now because that actually will be spoilers. A little spoilers towards a future fight. The next difference was this captain here, Senju Maru. She was not the first captain to actually face against Yhwach in the actual scene of the anime. It actually, when Yhwach came onto the Soul Palace, the first captain that showed up actually was the water captain, Tenjiro, the guy that basically healed through the hot springs and stuff. He basically showed up first and started attacking Yhwach with his water, and the hot springs being so hot, it's supposed to like melt Yhwach and stuff. But unknowns to him, it would not actually touch Yhwach because of the Stern Ritter W's abilities that they didn't know about at first. But the anime kind of cut that section out, which it makes sense because it's kind of redundant, because the same thing happens when she shows up and tries to attack, as you saw, and her blades couldn't touch Yhwach, and then Stern Ritter W shows up, and then of course the whole ordeal that happened there, which was a lot quicker than what was happening in the manga because it kind of tried to draw out that fight, but here it was like short, concise, and to the point that Stern Ritter W just got absolutely laid out very quickly. And speaking of Stern Ritter W here, actually, his speech pattern is actually different in the manga. It kind of holds true to the fact that his speech is actually like a lisp because he has 2 tongues. In the anime, they basically didn't add that in. They just made his speech pattern normal. I guess, you know, just to make it clear. And to be honest, he doesn't really talk all that much before he's laid out and just absolutely thrown away. And while we're still on the topic of speech patterns, this captain here, actually his speech is kind of normalized in the anime because in the manga, he says a lot of terms and words where he actually says stuff like brah, trippin', yo, man, shoddy, all kinds of little things like that, to where in the anime it's kind of just normalized and he kind of talks a little bit just like everyone else. But he does have a dialect with him in the manga. But it honestly seems really heavy in the manga, almost to the point that maybe they were kind of making fun of his African-American roots. So I can understand where they changed that to where he just kind of talks a little bit more normalized, which doesn't bother me. A very small part, but actually kind of funny moment, was the fact that as Urahime is in the rocket and reminiscing about the past where they tried to go onto Serete and everyone was kind of the same way they were now, but they had Uryu with them. And, you know, that line that Urahime says how Yoriichi was a cat, she actually comes out and says, you know, if you want, I could turn back into a cat again, you know, just to remember the past. Which, like I said, was kind of like a one-liner, but it actually was kind of funny. You know, gives personality to Yoriichi. Like, in the anime, they've been making her solemn. They've taken away a lot of the jokes that Yoriichi actually says, which I did comment about in the past review of Yoriichi and how she did a couple of things before they left on the rocket. But they've kind of made Yoriichi like short, to the point, and like down to business, which honestly is fine. I mean, you know, it's Yurichi. It would have given her a little bit more personality and more of a character growth, but we'll probably get more out of Yurichi in the coming episodes because I'm sure there's going to be some lovely fights that we'll see out of her, and they'll probably give that funny personality back to her when she gets down to business. And finally, to wrap things up as far as difference is concerned, Yhwach leaving this cage the way that he did not happen in the manga. Not only did it not happen this early, it didn't happen in this way. Which, without giving spoilers, let's just say that in the cage, there was a lot more fighting that happened. And through the fighting, stuff happens to the cage and he's able to kind of break free. But here, as soon as like the cage like happens, he just swap places and is able to escape the cage, kind of showcasing his power, if you will. But there was a lot more that happened between now and then before he got out of the cage, before the fight between him and the captain of the Zero Squad. But, you know, there was a few little small minor words and phrases and stuff that I don't really touch on. I try to get you guys like the major changes and differences between the manga and anime, just to kind of see like, oh, okay. And you guys don't have to necessarily, one, get spoiled, or two, research it yourself. So, getting down to the actual nitty gritty of the episode, I really want to get into what Stern Ritter X said here, and kind of goes into the title of the episode, which I think the title of the episode actually encapsulates a lot of stuff that may or may not happen. As the title says, too early to win, too late to know. And as he was saying here, that of course the royal guards, Yhwach's royal guards, show up, and Stern Ritter X is one of them, and he shows up and he's like super overconfident, and he's like, oh, we've already won as soon as we step foot in this place, and you guys as the losers don't know this and don't realize it until it's way too late that you've already lost. And it's very interesting because just the title itself is too early to win and too late to know. And that can be construed onto either side, because you don't know who's going to win, and a side that you think is going to win, it's way too early to tell who's going to win. But then one side that's going to lose is too late to know, because one side will lose, but events have already happened and transpired that it's already too late. Things are actually already happening. And he, of course, is thinking it's too late because the fact is they've already stepped foot in the royal palace, and it's too late. They're going to win because they overshadow the enemies, as in the Squad Zero people. But it also could be thrown on the opposite way, because at first they were coming in here, he shoots a bullet and it looks like it actually destroys basically a headshot and kills the woman, but then it's all like, psych, all of the ninja the cloaks and shadows move away, and then she's actually perfectly fine. And so then the reverse can happen, like, oh, you guys are on the back step and you guys are in trouble, yet we are the ones that are going to win now. Especially when it came later. All of the Squad Zero captains are introducing themselves. They're coming on the scene. They have the cage over their enemies that can't escape through the cage. And then you have, of course, Mr. Zanpakuto, creator, coming up on the scene and absolutely doing them dirty, literally killing all of them in one strike. As he said, this sword is so sharp that it can't even go into a Zanpakuto. It must be in like liquid, a jelly substance, in order to contain it. And then just strikes all of them down in one hit. And it's like, then yet and still, the title still can go, hey, you know, here the Squad Zero is winning. Are they the ones that are going to win the battle, or are they the ones winning right now, but then something may happen in the future? So, like the title works out, it's too early to know who wins, and it's too late to change the way the events have actually transpired. And thus, the reason why I said, the title to this episode is actually really striking, and I think more important than you think it is, and can very well be overglossed. Just so much happened in this episode that just went reverseless, back and forth, back and forth. You think one side did well, then something happens, and the other side does well, and another thing happens, the other side. So it's like back and forth, back and forth. Who are the true winners, and who are the true losers, and who is actually going to stay true with what Mr. Sternritter X was actually saying? And like I said, very good, and I think a very good moment to kind of think about, which I'm pretty sure not a lot of people have. Overall, a lot of one-sidedness that happened in this one, and like I already said, a lot of switcheroos that happen in this one, so you don't know exactly who the true winners, who the true losers are. But for introducing the Royal Guards, their bodies are all over the floor right now, which, you know, as this captain just kind of just sharply made work out of them, while the other 3 captains are in the background, just like didn't even step up, didn't even have to step up. He just, one guy just clears all of them. And so Yhwach, of course, makes a break for it, not necessarily to run away, but to go for the captain of the Zero Squad, because they have a thing that they got to deal with, which, like I said, the beginning scene showing what has happened and transpired with them in the past 1,000 years ago, if you will, I think it's actually good to show the anime, because honestly, any extra scenes done by the studio here, which is marvelous, by the way, the fact that they did extra animation that they didn't have to do just to show a background and let the audience kind of know a little bit more about the characters. Marvelous, marvelous, love it. And of course, as we get next week, 2 episodes in one, which I'm sure is going to be a lot of fighting, a lot of stuff. An episode like this that kind of gives a setup to showcase, oh man, what is going to happen next week. We're going to have some good fights next week, I will say, and I'm looking forward to it. And of course, we still have Ichigo and his team trying to make it to the Soul Palace. So who knows when they're going to show up, and at what point in the fights will they make a difference, if you will. So yes, I'll be there. I definitely will be there with bells on, guys, as we see the last 2 episodes next week for this cur. No matter what happens, I already know that it's going to leave off on some crazy cliffhanger that definitely is going to be, oh my god, now I gotta wait however long until the next season comes out, or next cur, as they keep saying it. But definitely, when we know more information about that, I definitely will make sure to share with you guys, so you guys will also be in the know. And I look forward to this last hour special. And we will definitely be doing an analysis on it as well. So stay tuned. Make sure you watch the channel here. Make sure you subscribe for more analysis on Bleach and several others here. You guys be safe. Take care. And Lord willing, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now. Make sure to check out the extra content on our Patreon page. And thanks to our current patrons.
This ain't what you want, bitch, I'm a fucking phenomenon.